would like to welcome you all to this evening's licensing subcommittee. Before I hand over to members, I would like to take you through the protocols for this evening's meeting. Can I request that you only speak when invited to do so by the chair? If you wish to speak, please raise your hand and direct all communication via the chair. Please ensure that your mics are muted when you are not speaking, apart from the chair, who does not need to mute their mic at any stage. And this is to ensure that the meeting is conducted effectively. When speaking, please be succinct and do not exceed the allocated timeframes. If you are referring to a specific page or picture in a report, please refer specifically to this. If you are having technical difficulties, please use the chat function in Google Meets to alert the meeting, or dial in on the phone number and using the PIN provided within the invite on the council's website on the meetings page. Please do not use the chat function for putting formal questions to the subcommittee or for any other purposes. Any persistent disruptive behaviour will result in removal from the meeting. Once this application has been considered, we only have, I believe it's one this evening, any remaining parties will be asked to log out of the hearing. Please do so promptly so that councillors will have the opportunity to deliberate and make a decision on the application they have heard. You will be notified of the decision within 5 working days. However, I would advise that if you'd like to contact the licensing service tomorrow, you will be given a skeleton decision. At this point, I would like to hand over to members to elect a chair.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Margaret Gordon.
I second that.
Thank you. Do we have any declarations of interest? I don't think there's any apologies for absence.
No apologies and no declarations that I've been informed of, Councillor.
Okay, and there's no minutes for consideration this evening. So we'll now move on to agenda item 5, and I'd like to invite the Governance Services Officers to outline the procedure.
Okay, the first step following me reading this will be introductions, which we will do so shortly. The licensing officer will then outline the report. The applicant will present their case in support of their application, following which any responsible authorities present will be invited to put forward their case. We do not have any other persons present this evening. There will then be step 6, there will then be a discussion of the application. The chair will structure and lead a discussion on the information that has been presented. Step 7, the chair will ask responsible authorities, other persons, there are none today, apologies, applicants and the licensing officer if they have any final comments that they wish to make. These comments can only be in relation to the issues raised during the discussion. I should point out that any remarks should be brief. There will be then a final opportunity, step 8, for any final clarifications required. And step 9 is the subcommittee will deliberate and they will reach a decision of which you will be informed. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks very much. So we'll now move on to introductions, starting with members of the subcommittee. So I'm Councillor Margaret Gordon. I'm a councillor for Leabridge Ward, and my 2 colleagues are?
Councillor Sam Moema, and I'm a councillor in Hackney Downs Ward.
Councillor Harvey Odds, councillor in Springfield Ward.
Okay, supporting us this evening, we've got our legal officer.
Hello, good evening. I'm Amanda North. I'm a legal officer supporting members this evening. Thank you.
Governance Services Officer.
Hello, I'm Natalie Williams, Governance Services.
And Licensing Officer.
I'm Subhashri Ramana, Principal Licensing Officer.
And also IT Support Officer.
Hi, Mario here from ICT to assist with the live stream of the meeting.
Okay, and we've got 2 other people here. Mr. Omar Hack, who I understand is representing the applicant. Mr. Hack, could you please introduce yourself and turn your camera on if possible? Hello, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. My name is Omar Hack, and I'm representing Creams this evening.
Okay, thanks very much for coming along. And also we've got somebody from the responsible authorities. Could you please turn your camera on and introduce yourself?
Good evening, I'm Kerry Ryan, I'm a police officer with the licensing unit.
Okay, thanks very much. So we've only got one item on the agenda this evening, so I'd like everybody to turn to agenda item 7, which is an application for a premises licence for Creams in Kingsland High Street. So I'd like to invite the applicant, Mr. Hark, to present his opening statements. Mr. Hark, just before you start, it'd be of great assistance to us, I think, if you could sort of briefly outline how your business operates, the sort of briefly outline the application you're making, and also if you could describe the sort of environment. I think we need to speak to get the licensing officer. I've missed out a stage, haven't we? Sorry. The licensing, yeah, I'll go on to that in a minute. The licensing officer could just introduce the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
The licensing service are in receipt of an application for a premises license under Section 17 of the Licensing Act 2003 for Creams, 562 to 564 Kingsland Road, for the provision of late night refreshment as stated in the agenda. Representation remains from the police. I have nothing else to add. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, that's very helpful. Sorry, Mr. Hack, for that. Yes, so if you could just really sort of outline the reason for your application, give us some details and background about your business and what you're selling, the reason you've applied for these particular hours. If you could maybe just describe where your business is situated and the sort of environment, and also if you could explain how you intend to meet the licensing objectives. Also this, your business is situated in a special policy area, so if you could talk to us about your knowledge of that as well. And also it'd be really helpful for us as well if you could outline any discussions that you've had with the police in relation to their representations. Thank you. You've got around 5 minutes.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. So we obviously from Creams. We've been endorsed since 2014. We sell desserts, so anything from waffles to ice creams and gelatos and stuff like that. We do hot drinks such as teas and coffees. We've been in the community for quite a while. We're quite popular in the community in terms of our business. We are next to kind of Dawson Junction, kind of overground train station. We've been quite hit recently by the pandemic since last year, where we've had to change the way we operate in terms of providing only kind of a delivery or takeaway service. So we were trying to kind of improve our service in terms of trying to find new ways to kind of get income to kind of increase our wage, so not to lay off any type of staff or kind of have another further hit towards our business. So we looked at what is popular at the moment. We tend to get a lot of kind of delivery items as well as a takeaway happening in the evening. So we looked at potentially at first to look at doing a dining in option, and then we quickly realized that that's probably not going to be something that we could potentially do in our store or keep a kind of a secure area to do so. So we opted out for just to have delivery and takeaway. We've taken various different steps to ensure we kind of abide to protect all, not just our neighbors, but our community in terms of littering, in terms of noise pollution. For example, we've taken steps to not to switch off all type of sound system in the shop after 11 o'clock. At the moment, we operate from 1 o'clock in the afternoon to 11 p.m. What we wanted to do would extend from the 11 o'clock to about 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. in the summertime to be able to just do takeaway and delivery services. We will also kind of stop selling any type of glass bottles and also just provide kind of plastic cutlery. We've also invested in a litter bin to make sure that it doesn't kind of, there is no litter going outside of the premises and everything is within. We've already got a very small area where people will be able to kind of come in, pick up the deliveries or takeaway and kind of leave. We've also invested in an enhanced CCTV system, as well as a lot of signage kind of details in terms of keeping the noise down, about littering and so forth. As a contingency, we've also kind of have had conversation with security companies. If, for example, we did a bit of research and we found out that the McDonald's down the road has got security at night, not that we think that we will need any, but we already started having those conversations just in case if there were any kind of issues further down the road where we would potentially need to have security personnel at the door. But knowing our customers and knowing kind of our environment, we've been operating a delivery and takeaway services for over a year now, and it's been working fantastic, especially at late night. and that's what we kind of applied to have the timing extended with that. We've also spoken to our local community as well as our neighbours to kind of understand the issue, if there is any kind of issue that needs to be raised, and what kind of mitigate impact we can kind of ensure that there's less as possible in terms of impact towards our community. In terms of, we've had also, there was also representation from others that we kind of worked with other people in terms of understanding what we needed to put in place, which we did. So therefore those application or those representation was withdrawn. I have spoken to Kerry at great length, and she gave us some really good pointers on what to kind of think about when we are going to open for Lena's and what her view was. So we were happy to kind of discuss those as well as implement any type of further enhancements to our store in terms of whether it's for security or whether it's for public nuisance or any other kind of aspect of it. But basically, it is just to extend for delivery and takeaways. We don't sell alcohol in the shop. It is just desserts, so waffles, sundaes and gelatos. And just we would like to kind of improve our sales to be able to kind of continue in the Dalston area. We've been there, like I said, since 2014. We're happy to be there. And we just want to kind of increase, what has been a big impact, I'm sure, not just for us, but for a lot of businesses in the local area in relation to COVID. And that is really it, if I'm honest. Unless you've got any questions, I'm happy to kind of...
Yeah, thanks very much. So just a couple of quick questions. So your application is just in terms of late night refreshment, and what sort of food will that be? Is that just the hot?
Yes.
Which hot food are you serving?
So we will be serving, in terms of hot section, we will be serving waffles and crepes, pancakes, and those are the two items. And in terms of the cold section, will be obviously ice creams and milkshakes.
Okay. And have you had any discussion with the police in relation to their proposed conditions, which appear in the bundle? Was it page
20 to 21 within the online report.
Page 21, 22? You've seen that?
Can't see in front of me.
It's towards the end of the report.
Yeah.
It's not opening up on my tablet, sorry.
Yeah, don't worry.
No, it's not opening up, I'm afraid.
I mean, maybe it would be helpful if we could. So, have you seen any conditions provided by the police before? Have you had a chance to have a look at these before?
I've spoken to Kerry about kind of the whole situation, and we've had a good discussion around the thing. Kerry's suggestion was to potentially to have kind of delivery only, as opposed to takeaway option as well. I think we are in a good position to be able to offer both within the community, especially with the small amount of space that we will operate from, and the kind of measures that we have taken to make sure that we kind of ensure that we are complying with everything else that's needed. I mean, we are more than happy to kind of do anything else further to ensure that we comply with all the relevant requirements.
Okay, Suba, yeah.
Sorry, Chair. Do you want me to present those conditions? Do you want me to display the screen, please?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that would be quite helpful if you could just show them to Mr. Hack, and he could maybe just consider them. And then
Thank you.
Might save a bit of time. Thank you. Can you see that? Okay.
Yes, we have spoken about this condition, and we've agreed to all of them. Yes, I remember those now. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes,
so you're happy?
Those. Happy with those. Yeah, not a problem at all.
Okay. Okay, that's really helpful. I don't know if either of my colleagues have got any factual questions, whether we can just move on to the police to make their representations.
Yeah, no questions from me.
Okay. So, yeah, I'll now invite Kerry Ryan, representing the police, to make her representation. She's got up to 5 minutes.
Good evening, thank you. We're not actually against the granting of this application. We just wanted to really tighten things up a bit and condition it so that we ensure the promotion of the licensing objectives. The Creams is in the Dalston Special Policy Area, and obviously as the restrictions are eased, we're expecting a huge rise in the number of people that are going to be on the streets. This in turn means that we also expect to see an increase in ASB, theft, violence and disorder. Our concern is that the customer base and people attracted to the premises after 11 o'clock will have consumed varying amounts of alcohol, which obviously affects their behaviour and perceptions. And as I pointed out in my representations, this is when it can result in confrontation and aggression. So we have had a few chats with Omar about the operation, his ideas and expectations for the business, and we've discussed the possibility of SIA security, but our communication ceased and we've had no other dialogue, so we haven't been able to really agree any further conditions. So what I did ask him to consider was the use of tens, so that he would be able to maybe gauge what his customer base was going to be, the timings, if you're required to be open so late, whether he should be doing delivery, click and collect or takeaway, and whether he would be able to manage the difficult customer base that will be coming into his shop late at night. So what I really wanted to propose was that we added some conditions, a condition around staff members and the minimum staffing levels to ensure that everybody is kept safe on the premises, so that no one is ever left on their own. Also, we would like to put a limit on the amount of people that can come into the shop. I have been into Creams several times, so I've spoken to Omar and he said that the seating area is actually going to be closed after 11 o'clock. No one will be able to go and sit down. So ideally that should be a condition. And I would just like to ask him during the discussion phase of how he's going to manage to cordon off the restaurant so that people can't go in and sit down. I think that is it. We did talk about just doing delivery only and maybe click and collect, and maybe that would lay our concerns around the people that are going to be coming into the shop. If they can pre-order, they can just go pick it up and leave, or delivery obviously taken away and delivered to their home. So yeah, extra conditions around security, minimum staffing levels, the amount of people that are allowed in the shop at any one time, and that the seating will be rendered not usable. That's it from us.
Okay, thank you very much. So, so you're saying that you think it would be appropriate to have sort of an SIA in these premises, or and what sort of staffing levels do you think at the minimum? Is it 2 people or?
Yeah, I think 2, just as long as someone's not on their own. I mean, I've been to lots of incidents down in Dalston, and unfortunately it can get, you do have violent outbursts down there. If there's a security guard on the door, then that obviously will protect the staff inside and protect the people, the customers inside, because people are drunk at that time of night and they can be difficult to deal with. And for staff that are at the other side of the counter trying to deal with people's orders, they're not going to want to come around and deal with a fight or someone that's being aggressive the other side.
Okay, thanks very much. Do other members have any questions? Councillor Moema?
Yeah, just very briefly, I wondered, Kerry, if obviously you said that you don't have any issues in principle with this application, but if your concerns around the issues in the surrounding area, if you could just give us a little bit of an idea of that, just would be helpful to understand what, you know, in terms of mitigations, just a bit more of an expansion around that.
Yeah, Dalston is gets very busy very quickly during the hours between 11 to and earlier on into the morning. There's in Dalston, there's chicken shops and other McDonald's, as Omar stated, that do have an SIA on the door, just to, well, as I said before, just to make sure that everybody is kept safe. And obviously CCTV will help with that as well.
Chair, if I could just ask one other question, I've completely forgot, which was to Mr. Hack around just to reassure us that there won't be anybody coming into the premises, and you know, any closure from 11 onwards also includes kind of the toilets as well.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So there will be no access to toilets, and as Kerry mentioned, there would be no access to the seating area. And the way we're going to kind of mitigate that impact is we've kind of looked at having barriers, which is kind of marketing barriers that would kind of restrict anybody, even in looking at the seating, they won't be able to look at the seating area. In terms of staff members, we've also kind of looked at the resources, and we identified that having 3 to 4 staff members, having 3 to 4 staff members at that sort of time will be appropriate. We haven't kind of ruled out the SIA. But so far we've obviously been open up until 11 o'clock, so we've kind of had an understand of what sort of clientele we have so far. Obviously, as Kerry mentioned, once the restriction of the lockdown disappears, we'll have a better idea. But we haven't ruled out SIA, but we've got kind of a lot of the measures in place. So the seating area will be a no, the access area to the toilets will be a no, and there will be barriers to kind of accommodate that. And the staff members will be about 3 to 4 at a minimum, with 1 supervisor or manager.
Okay, and then just one final question. So I don't understand what you mean by summer months in your application.
So anything like, for example, the summer month would be our busiest time in the summer month. Generally, will be as soon as the summer holiday starts, or half term starts for school holidays, all the way to September.
Okay, thank you. I think we'll now move on to the discussion phase. And obviously, this business, although I obviously do acknowledge it's only serving late night refreshment, is within the special policy area. So if you just direct everybody to LP10, it's the council's policy that where a relevant representation is made on any application within the area of the Dalston Spa or Shoreditch Spa, the applicant will need to demonstrate the proposed activity, the operation of the premises will not add to the cumulative impact that's already being experienced in these areas, and has obviously been described by Kerry. So this policy is to be strictly applied. It should be also be noted that the quality and track record of the management, the good character of the applicant, and the extent of any variation sought may not be sufficient. So I just really, I think it would be helpful, Omar, really, if you could sort of address any issues that you think your business with these extended hours will have to the cumulative impact of these issues in Dalston. How you've considered that and how you're going to mitigate it. I know you've touched on some of that before, but I think we just need to sort of particularly address the issue of the special policy area. Yes,
so obviously we've looked at in terms of the noises, the pollution, as well obviously looked at the kind of crime rates across the kind of the area of Dalston in relation to that. We obviously looked at implementing CCTV, signage, as well as obviously working in partners with the staff, giving them extra training in relation to kind of having the confidence around the keeping the noise down kind of policy for our customers and our community. We also kind of looked at various different type of signage. So some will be related to CCTV, other would be related to kind of the noise. We also looked at the light pollution in relation to kind of the signboard and so forth. So these are the kind of small factors that we've taken into and looked at to ensure that we can kind of ensure that we are in line with all the requirements that's kind of needed. I mean, we're more than happy to kind of review anything that needs to be reviewed to make sure that we comply in any other way.
What's your response to the suggestions by Kerry in relation to maybe just trialling this by means of having temporary events notices, just to see, and also, I mean, would you consider any sort of shorter hours within the sort of core hours? Would that be something you'd consider?
I mean, we did consider to trial it, but then we've also understood our community quite well. We've been here, like I said, 7 years now. We kind of understand the type of clientele we have. I mean, at the moment, we open until 11 o'clock. So we do kind of understand the type of people that come in. I don't know what Kay is talking about. People, obviously, the drunken people are later on at that sort of time. But we have, as a team, we've had several meetings to discuss this, and we have kind of understood as a whole that we will be able to kind of manage those extra hours, and in relation to just having delivery and takeaway. And this is why we straight away kind of ruled out the eating-in options, because we knew we wouldn't be able to kind of accept that type of clientele, as well as opening the toilets and so forth. So we restricted the area to a very small amount. We also kind of, as Kerry mentioned, in terms of the amount of people that would come in, we'll also have a system in relation to that as well. But after having several meetings with our staff, I think we are very confident to be able to kind of serve just desserts at that sort of time in a safe manner, but as well as kind of going in line with the requirement that's needed for our community and our customers, as well as our neighbouring residents.
What sort of efforts will you be making to cordon off the seating area? And also, what's your response to Kerry's proposal that you consider just doing a click and collect service deliveries instead of what you're proposing?
So the seating in area will be some marketing barriers, and you will not be able to kind of see beyond what's behind it. So in terms of any kind of area where you can see the seating area will be kind of blocked off by these sort of barriers. Obviously they'll have our logos and so forth, just to make it a little bit more kind of appealing to the eye. But they will kind of completely lock the area away and restrict the area to just the front bit. In terms of click and collect, we did think of that, absolutely. The only thing is we realized with that is if people are just click and collecting, they might be a bit more loitering around in the front of the premises waiting for their food to be ready. If you've got people coming in and kind of ordering, we can kind of turn it around a lot quicker than if you just click and collect, especially with kind of nowadays with the system that is implemented with various different tablets, and the way they can have kind of a slow response in terms of how they are accepted and then how they are used by the kind of the customer. We think that it's a lot quicker and a lot beneficial that if we have someone come in, for example, and orders a milkshake, we can turn that around within a minute or so. With a click and collect, that could add another couple of minutes, and again, that will create that kind of loitering around at the front of the premises, which we're trying to avoid as much as possible. So there's a smooth kind of walk in and walk out kind of policy.
How would you manage a queue outside if a number of people come out of a licensed premises and all want an ice cream and there's a big rush? How would you manage that?
So we've looked at that as well. We've had a kind of an understanding of potentially having like a queuing system in terms of using barriers that we currently have in relation to having a one-way system where you can just come in and only having, for example, if we only have 2 people inside and there's 2 outside, we can have one, because we'll have 3 to 4 staff. We can have staff on the kind of outside or just on our boundary to kind of explain to people the queuing system in relation to kind of how they come in and how they go out. We've tried the kind of barrier system to see whether it would work in terms of how would people would come in and how would people would go out. So far, I mean, we haven't done it with real life people. We've done it with our staff, and it did work in terms of to mitigating the impact of having too many people in that small area or congesting that area. So on the outside, we could have a small kind of areas that has designated kind of lines or stickers on our kind of shop front to showcase where they could stand. But when we used it with our staff, it did work quite well, albeit it's not the kind of real life scenario.
Okay, thanks very much. I'll now hand over to my colleagues, see if they've got any further questions. Councillor Odds?
Yeah, if I can go back to these during the summer holiday months, it really does need to be quantified a bit more, be a bit more specific. It's somewhat vague. We do need actual sort of the months of August and September, or, you know, it's, as I say, it's just something. I wonder if you could put some, you know, tighten it up somewhat.
Yeah, sure. So that will be June, July, August.
So your applications for June, July, August, yeah.
The other thing is as well, after 11 p.m, you will still be doing takeaways, or you're allowing people to come and collect their takeaway, come in and order a takeaway, or after that time it will be delivery only, because
It will be delivery and takeaway.
if it's anything other than just delivery only, you've got something of a conflict between the late night hours, the late night refreshment hours, and the opening hours of the premises, especially during those 3 months when you say you want the 2 p.m. every day.
It will be delivery and takeaway.
And takeaway.
Yes, sir.
So that means the opening hours of the premises that you've applied for do not tally with the summer months late night refreshment hours. I'm going to ask Amanda at this point, are we allowed to add in the opening hours, the 2300 to 2 a.m. if it was agreed for late night refreshment? Can that be added into the opening hours, or would that require a new application?
Adding in the 2300 hours.
2 o'clock in the summer months.
Discrepancy.
Oh, it's not been. Sorry, someone say something. I was going to say that it's not been added in though into the application.
That's what I'm saying. Would that require a new application?
Yeah, it would. Yeah, if it's not in the application now, then we do need to add it, unless yeah, because look at these hours.
Amanda, would you mind on the late night refreshment page of the application? It does state in the seasonal variations until 2 o'clock every day of the week during the summer months.
Oh right, so it's got until 2, so we could just amend it down to 1. Is that what you're saying? Yes.
Yeah.
Is that what you were saying, Councillor Odds? About
No, what I was saying is if we were to agree the late night refreshment to 2 during those 3 months, then there would be a contradiction, because we wouldn't be able to agree to the premise on this basis at the moment to the premises being open till 2 on the other 5 days of the week, because it's not in the application.
I think Suba might want to come in.
Thank you, Chair. Normally, because the applicant has requested as part of the non-seasonal variation to include during the summer month, if it gets granted, we normally put, when we issue the license, we just put a condition that for the summer month, the hours will be June to August at this time, and the rest of the months will be this. So we normally consider this because he has already mentioned in his application as part of it. So he don't require to provide a separate application as part of this consultation.
But what I'm saying is the application as it stands at the moment is only for provision of late night refreshment. The application for the 2 a.m. opening hours is not in the opening hours part of the application.
There's discrepancy between the provision of late night refreshment and the opening hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the opening hours is not as part of the licensing activity.
It's not a licensed activity.
Yeah, so
Okay. All right, that's the answer.
and we can do it.
Okay, fine.
Thank you.
Okay. So
Just wanted to dot the I's and cross the T's.
Chair, I think Kerry had a question.
yeah, Kerry, sorry, thank you.
No, I was just going to point out the seasonal variations. That's all.
Okay.
Chair, can I just ask, I don't know whether or not anything's been mentioned about the non-standard hours. Oh, sorry, that is the summer month. Sorry, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think. Thanks everyone for all your help. I mean, I suppose my concerns. I don't know whether these are shared by colleagues really, in relation to this, is that although it obviously sounds like a lovely business, which makes a really nice, great contribution to the area, that this proposed extension is quite untested. It, could potentially add to the cumulative impact in the area. We've also got to consider that it's part of the special policy area, and find, if we were to grant this, we've obviously got to find reasons to do that. I mean, I am also concerned about this quite large extension to the hours at this stage, and one stage as well. So, I mean, I don't know whether there'd be any possibility maybe of reducing the hours, even if only on some days of the week. I don't know how you'd respond to that, Omar. I don't know whether colleagues share those concerns. I can see Councillor White nodding. Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy to kind of to not open till 2 and do just to 1. Happy to kind of do that.
Yeah. I mean, I'd certainly be happier with that. It's obviously outside sort of core hours, but 1 does sound more reasonable. I don't know what your view is on this, Councillor Odds. You're on mute.
Sorry, I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, do we think 1 o'clock? So, what do we think about? Should there be any variation on days of the week? Have people got views on that?
I just had a question for Omar and for Kerry. Actually, it's a bit of a philosophical one. Given the nature of your business, the seasonal variation of being open until later does feel a bit odd. So I'm wondering if that's something that would be brought back in line with the shorter hours that you're thinking about, Councillor Gordon, or that we're thinking about. Not quite such a late open.
I think during the summer months, people obviously are tending, and it's much lighter in the evening, so people are out earlier, they're drinking more. So yeah, we would be minded to, I mean, if it's agreeable to bring everything back to just 1 o'clock every day, full stop, all year round.
I mean, I'm happy to do that as well.
Okay.
I don't have no main objection with that. Absolutely not.
Okay. Thanks, Jen.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd be minded. I mean, I think I'd be. I mean, I think I'd certainly be minded to condition that. I mean, I think also conditions in relation to cordoning off the area. I mean, I'm reasonably happy with what you've described, and. Are we happy with the? I mean, I think there's quite a lot of thought has been given into managing people coming in and out of these premises. And I think a minimum staff. I mean, do you think? Well, a minimum staffing level of 2. I mean, I don't know what colleagues' views are on designated door supervisor.
So Omar had mentioned 4 people.
Yeah.
And Kerry had mentioned a minimum of 2 at any one time. So I just was thinking that perhaps, obviously, a dialogue between the police and Omar would be really helpful. And if the police say a security guard is preferable, then I think kind of having something within the conditions which allows the police to be a bit more directive to avoid any issues before they arise. I don't know if that sits well with everybody.
Yeah, I think we're probably looking at it from different angles, Omar and I. Obviously, we're looking at the point of view that we don't want anyone to be in there on their own, and a security guard, I think, at the front door is kind of policing their venue and can stop any of that before it even gets inside. Whereas Omar, I think, is looking at how he's going to effectively run and keep the orders moving to have enough staff. So I think a compromise would be better.
And what sort of time? Sorry, what sort of time do you think a security guard would be needed from in the evening?
I think off the top of my head, I can't remember what the other ones are. I think between 9 and 10, maybe 10 o'clock.
Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Moema. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, so that's something which is currently, Mr. Hack, Omar said that he was agreeable to something like that, but it's not actually conditioned anywhere, so we could put that in from 10 o'clock.
If we were minded to, to grant it from 10 o'clock. Okay.
Sorry,
Yes, go ahead.
is it possible also to have a condition that no unaccompanied children will be allowed in? Children to be defined as 16, 18, I'm not sure, but would Mr. Hack agree to that?
Mr. Hack?
Yeah, that's fine. The other thing is as well is in terms of having a security guard. In the reason why we had 3 to 4 staff was what Kerry said in terms of turning around, but we also had in mind that part of the 3 and 4 staff, one of them will be a supervisor or above to ensure that if there's any kind of issues at the front door, that person can kind of mitigate those impact of it. So it's not just to turn those orders as quickly as possible. The 3 and 4 includes having someone on the floor if needed, just to give you a bit of context.
Yeah, would you have any problem with us conditioning that there should be 4 staff present at the premises after 10 o'clock, including a security guard?
The thing is as well is if we have 4 staff and if we also then have a security guard, it could potentially go against what we're trying to do, which is to increase our sales. A lot of the funds that we probably will just generally go on covering the wages of potentially security guards and so forth. So I'm happy to consider that, but as a condition, it would be very difficult to kind of say yes or no on having a security guard. Because if, for example, we just make an extra £200-300, but the security is costing us 180 per week, taking our cost down, it's not viable for us to then open up for the SOS, because it goes against everything that we're trying to do, which is to increase our sales post COVID.
No, I mean, I do appreciate there are these tensions in relation to running businesses. I don't know whether colleagues want to comment on that, or please.
I was just wondering, rather than specifying a security guard as such, could we not just, would Mr. Hack not be willing to accept that at least one of the staff on the premises should be security authorised, SIA authorised, and would therefore fulfil the dual role?
Would that help?
Yeah, we could look at that.
So from the police point of view, I think we were just looking at it from the sense that an SIA supervisor is obviously trained in conflict management and can maybe diffuse any situations before it gets out of control, or knows how to deal with it if it does.
Okay. That seems like a compromise.
Yeah. Okay. Unless anyone's got any further points to make, shall we sort of move to closing statements? So, Kerry, do you want to start with any sort of closing remarks?
Yeah, I'll just. I mean, I don't think I've got anything new to add. Really, it was just around tightening everything up with conditions around minimum staff levels, door supervisors or supervisor, the seating area being closed to customers after probably 11 o'clock, as it's open till 11 o'clock at the moment, and maximum of customers allowed in at any one time. That may also reduce the potential for confrontation inside during the early hours of the morning. But that's it from us. Oh, and the 1 o'clock throughout.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Have you got a figure for the maximum customers, or should we?
I don't know. Omar, would 3? Is that enough? Is that? I mean, it's quite a small area, isn't it? Just around the counter.
3 is fine. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Omar, have you got any closing remarks to make, and before we make our decision?
No. That's it. Thank you.
Nothing to add. Okay, thanks very much. Okay, so thanks very much, everyone. I think that concludes this evening's business. A decision will be sent within 5 working days, but a skeleton decision will be available for the licensing service the following morning. So I'll ask for you to, Kerry and Omar, for you to leave, and we're now going to be stopping the recording. Thanks very much for attending this evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good evening.
Bye.